Well, good morning. We are finishing up T-nuts today. Hopefully we're finishing them up with the exception of tumbling and bluing them. So this is the stock after it's come off of the Atlas horizontal mill. Now I have deburred the edges. I just take them over the belt sander and hit the edges so I can clamp them in the vise. Now I was originally going to just reset my cutters on the Atlas mill and go ahead and cut the outer profile, which ends up looking like this. So I was going to flip them over and run my cutter back down the same way I machined the upper slots in the mill. And like I say, this is the difference between the two, right there like that. So what I've decided, I changed my mind, and another command decision here. The reason I didn't was it takes about not quite 15 minutes to run this profile the way I had it set with the high-speed steel tooling and just running it at that feed rate, and that gave about the best results. And there was a couple of reasons I didn't. I ended up, and while this was running, why I could come over to the horizontal mill, clamp it in the vise in this orientation, machine the top off, clean that up, deburr the edges, flip it back over and do the other, and I ended up with this profile. And I could do about 2 or 3 of these in the time that it took for one part to run off the milling machine. So to me, that's one of the advantages of these small machines like the little Atlas mill, and that's the way they ran them as production machines when they were in a shop. I consider it kind of stupid time. Once you got it set up and running, you can go off and do something else. So, and that's the way a lot of these machines got beat up and broken, as they were pretty well abused in the industrial environments when they were used for that. They were set up for one operation. They ran the crap out of them that way, and the machines got trashed. They got neglected while a little Atlas machine was running. Why a bigger machine could be run by the operator, and you could kind of manage both machines. So that's basically what I've done here. That's one of the reasons, and that, as a side note, is probably why, like on the shapers and even on the mills, you see broken gearboxes, because while that machine was running, a machinist was off doing something else that was probably a more important, I won't say important job, but a more job that required your attention more than the little Atlas machine. So they'd get run to the end of their power feeds on the shaper table or on the milling machine power feed, and they'd get to the end, bind up, and break. And that's why you broke the covers, for example, on the Atlas shaper. So it's, that's why they break, is they get run to the end of their limits and they've got no place else to go, so something's going to let go. Anyway, I'll show you the setup on the mill, and we'll cut 1 or 2 of these and then move on to the next operation with this. But that's why. And that was one of the reasons I let the Atlas machine run for that profile while I was doing the other, because I could divide my time basically and get a lot more accomplished. The other reason is, and I mentioned it before, somebody asked about something about Atlas motors, and one of the big advantages that's touted by these sellers that are selling machines is they've got an original Atlas motor on them. Well, all of these motors, as I've said before, are 50, 60, 80 years old. So what condition are they actually in, and how long are they going to run? One of the reasons I switched, and I was running this little Atlas mill pretty hard and pretty continuously yesterday, my motor started warming up a little bit, and at some point in time it's going to give out on me. It was fine. I let it cool down once I realized what was happening and go back and do another cut, and it was fine. But under continuous operation, why that little motor's starting to heat up, and it's at least 50 years old. I don't know exactly how many years old. I've had the machine for probably almost 25 years now, and it had a rough life before that. So yeah, so original Atlas motors, maybe a good thing, maybe not a good thing. Anyway, I'm going to move this down. We'll mill a couple of these edges off and deburr them so we end up like this, and then we'll start separating them into individual T-nuts. And that's a rinse and repeat. Here's our T-slot nuts. Now, I've done these a little bit different than a lot of guys do them. On these little Atlas machines, I leave a little more side-to-side play, especially in the top. It helps alignment. I found quite a variation in T-nut slots or T-slots in the tables and on the rotary tables and things like that. Some of mine fit some machines real tight, some of them fit loose, so I tried to pick the best of both worlds to where they'll fit in everything yet not be too loose. What I have found is when you put a 5/16 thread in these, why they tend to want to poke out here on the sides a little bit over time after using them. They just, you know, as you run a nut back and forth in there. So what I've done is I've taken and just slotted them right where that goes, and that seems to alleviate that problem, at least to a certain degree. And then I give a fairly big bevel going down into the tops on most of them. That just allows you to start your bolts a little bit easier in there. So it's just the way I've chosen to do them. You know, some guys may like that, some guys may not, but that's the way that I do most of my T-nuts now. I've still got a lot of older T-nuts that I haven't done that to, and I've got a few that have worn themselves out the sides enough to where what happens is in some of the T-slots, why they get so wide that they don't want to go in, you have to force them in and things like that. And I found that to be especially true on the little Atlas rotary tables, and that's, I think, just a tolerance issue, is, you know, variation in machining, because I've got two of them. One of them's a little bit looser than the other, but one of them's exceptionally tight by comparison to everything else I've got. So that's why I've done them this way. And I've got a little fixture that I set up that I'll show you here that I've used to cut these in half. I just take them out of the horizontal bandsaw and set them in my little fixture and hold them in, and it's fairly easy to cut them off. So anyway, that's where we're at. We'll get the rest of these cut up and I'll show you when they're done. Then it's just down to deburring them and tumbling them and running them through the bluing tanks. So here's my little fixture. I just had it locked in the bandsaw vise because these pieces are so short. This is the way it looks. If I can find where we're at here. Just lift it up like this. I loaded my full lengths in here from the end just like that. When I locked it in place to run the bandsaw, I just ran the little cam down. On the rest of the stock, it stuck out here, so this little pin was right in the middle of each of those, or just forward of them. But I can align it there and press it down, and the saw cuts down right there to cut it off. Just that easy. Got a little alignment pin in it, right down in there, that indexes up on the hole, and that's how we set our lengths. So these are all cut out now. I've got a little more finishing to do on them. We'll deburr them a little bit and straighten up a couple of rough edges, and then we'll throw the whole batch in the tumbler, and we'll tumble them and then run through the bluing tanks. I don't know how soon I'm going to run bluing tanks. It'll probably not for another week or so, but we'll get those run, and after that we'll get them mounted on the website or loaded on the website. And we've got a little bit of a stack of them. So like I say, they'll get deburred a little bit, you know, smooth up the edges, the corners a little bit, radius them just a bit, and then we'll throw them into the bluing tank or into the tumbler, blue them up, and there we go. So it'll very much finish this up until we get them blued up. Then I'll just do a little short quickie follow-up on it to show the finished product. So anyway, comments or suggestions, leave them in the comments section for me below. These are the kind of things I do that not only shows you how to do these in your own shop or gives you some ideas of how to do them in your own shop, but it also helps support this channel. So when you guys throw a couple bucks my way for stuff like this that you can use on your machine, it helps me continue building parts and pieces and doing videos. So anyway, hopefully you found this a little bit useful. And as always, thanks for taking the time to watch.